Good morning. Myself, Dr. Nirmala Devi, Assistant Professor from the Department of Computer Application, Madanapalle Institute of Technology and Science, Madanapalle. I'm going to discuss about function overloading. This function overloading is a important concept of C++ programming language. I'm going to explain what is mean by function overloading. Uh, Agenda of function overloading. Introduction. So, what is mean by function overloading and types, advantages, and the disadvantages of function overloading, and what are the causes of we are going to facing in function overloading. Next, what is mean by function overriding, summary, and references. After that, if you have any queries or questions related to function overloading, we can post with the help of uh, forms. Introduction. So, what is mean by function overloading? Function overloading means we have more than one function name with have a same name, that is same function name, but with different number of arguments and also different kind of return types and argument list also we are going to mentioning here. So that is the main thing we are going to differentiating. So this is called as function overloading and function overriding. Or else we can say we can redefine the same function name within different types of arguments. So that is also we can mention. So this is also we can say it as the function overloading. So how the compiler will recognize means based on the types of arguments and based on number of arguments the compiler will recognize. So this is called as a different kind of functions will be there within the same function name. If you see this example, we have a function called add. Add is a function name. So there are more number of function name will be there, same function name, but it will have a different number of arguments. If you see here two arguments, here also two arguments. But here, if you see here, so we have a function called integer. This return type argument is a integer. If you see, so if you hear two number of arguments, if you see in third thing, you have called as a single argument. But see here, two argument is to be integer type and second function name also a add function, but it will have a two arguments but in different data types. So this is the way the compiler will recognize. So these are the function with same name but in different functionality it will be working. So if you look at in third and fourth, fifth example, we have different number of arguments. In third example, single argument, but if we see in fifth example, we have here two arguments. If we see in fifth and sixth argument, it have here two number of arguments, but the types of arguments will be different. So this is called, we will say it is the function overloading. After that, basically overloading we have divided into two number of categories. One is called as the function overloading, another called as the operator overloading. So these concepts we can say it is the polymorphism. So polymorphism is a main concept of an C++ language. Okay, so this is very important. So we have to categorize this overloading into two different category. One is to be function overloading, another is to be operator overloading. Next, what is the advantages and disadvantages of function overloading? Let me see one by one. First one is it is a improved code readability. So we can read a more number of same functions into more time and it is a very flexible for the user. Easily they can recognize what are the functionality will be there in that function. After that, flexible parameter option. We can, yes, of course, we can give more number of arguments, and we can differentiate type of arguments also. So that is also very flexible for the user. Next one is code reusability. The main thing function is we have to categorize your more number of codings into together. So that is the main thing. So the same number of module or function, we can use it in many places for different purpose. So that is called, we will say it is the code reusability. After that, avoidance of function name conflicts. So if you have different function name means, so it is difficult to recognize what is the function it is going to work out. So if we have a same function name within different places for different purpose, so this is a main thing it will avoid for naming conflicts. After that, it will be very helpful. It is a flexible for the programmer. We will say it is the convenience of the programmer side, because the same function name we are going to use in many places, and the types of arguments will be different thing, and the number of arguments also will be differ. So these are the main advantage while we are going to using for a function overloading. So what is a disadvantage if we have in function overloading? The main thing, usually function overloading means same function name, and it will be differ types of arguments or number of arguments. But if you look at in return type, so that return type it will be differ means it won't accept. So that is the main disadvantage if we are using for function overloading concept. Now I'm going to discuss about function overloading concept with the help of this program. So this program is mainly used for how we are going to adding two numbers. Okay. So look at this first one. We have a function called add. Okay. Here I have to use two function with the same name, same signature. This return type also is say same void if in both the programs. But if you look at your first function name, we have two arguments. If you go for next function, we have three number of arguments. So this is the way the compiler will recognize. So this is the different kind of functions will be execute, two arguments and three arguments. Okay, look at your first program, first function. We have here two arguments. So what is the arguments? So how we are going to mention, before that I will we will follow the syntax for function overloading. How we are going to mentioning for a function with the syntax means we have to follow return type. So we can use any number of return types, like void also we can use, integer also use, double, float. So many number of data types we have to use in return type. After that, we have to follow the function name. Function name we have to, so this is a user defined name we can give, whatever we can give it. So this is here we have a function name called add. After that, we have now arguments. So if you're mentioning the arguments, we have to mention no arguments or more number of arguments we can give. So like that, we have to differentiate the function. Okay, so let me see this function. So what is the concept in this function? We want to add two numbers. Okay, so we want to add a and b. After adding that, we need to save and we need to display this value. Okay, so cout. So this is the display statement which is used in the C++ language. Okay, so whatever we have to mentioning in double quotes, it will be display. So after that, it is the computational part. We have to add these two numbers a and b. After we have to display this result. Look at here second function. Here we have three number of arguments, that is integer a, integer b and integer c. Here also we are going to using the adding function only, but here we are going to adding three numbers, not two. Okay, so what is the first line? We have to mentioning for that cout endl. So endl it is used to come out your next line. It will bring it your next line. Okay, your cursor is to be in next places. After that, for differentiating for this function 1 and function 2, so I am going to using for number 1 and number 2. Okay, so here we are going to adding these three numbers a plus b. Okay, so this is the detailed description about function. Okay, now how this function is to be invoking in the main. Okay, let me see now. We have a main method. So when this main method, I'm going to calling two function. Okay, one first function also add, second function also add. But the thing is, you have to look at clearly. If you focus for this argument, we have two arguments here. If we have three arguments, when you compile, when you scan this particular line for the compiler, it will recognize. So this is a function name called add function. So within that add function, we have two number of arguments. So the compiler is to search here, is there any function name called add function, and is there any two number of arguments? Yes, of course it is there. So it will find out, it will after invoking for this particular line. So what is the value we are going to passing here? I am going to passing 10 comma 20. So this 10 comma 20 is to be invoked here. So integer a, it will take it for 10, and integer b, it will take it for 20. And also we have to focus on for this particular place. Here this 10 and 20 is a numerical value. It is not for a floating value. So that is also we need to ensure that if you are using for real number means, so real we will say it is the integer number. So that integer number it is going to here. So it will invoke, it will add these two value. So what is the outcome for this? 10 plus 20, you will get the 30 answer. Look at here next argument, next function, the same function, but it will differ three different number of arguments: 5, 10, 15. So the compiler is to recognize, is there any three argument function with the same name, add function name? Yes, of course it will be there. So it will catch all the whatever values we are going to pass. So it will be assigned for equivalently. The first value, that is 5, is to be assigned a. Next it will go for 10, it will be assigned for b, and 15 it is assigned for c. So if you're adding for all these values, you will get 5 plus 10 plus 15. Of course, you will get for your 30 values. Okay, so that is also will be there. Okay, so this is the way we are going to executing here. Okay, actually this output is to be wrong. So you will get for 25 and 30 you will get. Okay. Okay, I will explain. So the previous program I explained the two arguments and three arguments. This example is same number of arguments, but the data type will be different. Okay, I will explain for this. So this is also same thing. Here we have two integers, that is a and b. So we want to adding for this. Look at here. Previous program I have to use to cout statement, and their return type is to be void. For this function is to be written some values. Okay, so if any function is to be returning for any value, we need to mention for return type. So either it is double or integer based on your arguments and the type of this. Okay, here I am going to using the return type called as integer, the function name called as add. Here the same thing, I'm going to using two number of arguments, integer a and b. Here you are going to adding these two variables. After adding that, you are going to return that values whatever we add. So we have to return to the main function. Okay, if you look at here, we have a function, the same function name, add function. But look at here return type. Here I am going to using for return type is to be a double. Okay, so if you use a double return type, obviously we need to arguments also it is look like here a double also. Okay, we won't mentioning for integer data type. So that is also we need to focus in function overloading concept. Here we have two number of arguments only, but the thing is types of arguments will be different types. So either it is integer or float or double. So that will be differing here. Okay, so here double A and double B. So after adding that, you have to return with the help of double return type. Okay, so how we are going to invoking this function into main means, we have to go with your, so after in main, I'm going to using one variable called as integer. Okay, with the variable name is result1. Okay, so whatever, so I told you this function is to be written some value whatever we added. Okay, so we need to use these kind of procedures. Okay, so variable left side we need to mention. So we need to mention in right side function name along with the arguments. Okay. So if you pass these arguments 10 comma 20, so this function is to be go for this particular place. After adding this value, it will return here. Okay. So this value is to be coming here. So what is the value? 10 comma 20. So you will get your 30 answer. Okay. Look at your next line. So we have a function called add, but the type is to be double. Okay. The returning type is to be double. So you need to create one variable with the help of double data type. Okay. So here double. So within this double, I have to create one variable called as result2. Okay. Here I am going to calling this function add. So within that add, I'm going to passing two arguments. One is to be 5.3, another one is to be 2.1. Okay. So these values is to be passed in this place. Okay. So after passing that, it will add 5.3 plus 2.1. So of course you will get your 7 point value. Okay. So after that you want to, after calculating your data, your result is to be stored in two variables. One is to be res1, another is to be res2. Okay. So you want to print that two values here with the help of your cout statement, cout result1 and result2. Okay. So this is the concept, same function name, but data types will be different. Okay, so this is the concept of function overloading. Okay, so what are the causes we are going to facing in the function overloading? We have three different kind of causes will be there. One is here type conversion. So we cannot convert from one data type to another data type. Okay, another one is functions with the default arguments. Okay, so the default arguments means if you are defining or declaring some arguments with the help of function name, so that time we are going to mentioning some values in the declaration part itself. So that time we will be facing some struggle in function overloading concept. Next one is functions with pass by reference. Okay, so that is there also we will get some kind of problems. Okay, if you see in example 1 type conversion, you have a function called, okay, so in main function you have to use 12.4. Actually 12.4 is a floating value, but if you go with your descriptions, detailed descriptions of your function overloading concept, we have to mentioning for a double. So basically the float is to be converted into double. Here if you created a function with the arguments is to be float a, but you have to pass in 12.4, both are same, but the conversion part it will be getting struggle. Okay, so that is the one problem we are going to facing for type conversion in function overloading concept. Next one is function with default arguments. Okay, how the compiler it won't recognize whether it is a single argument or two argument. Look at this example in actual function, or we can say it is the main function. I have to use only one arguments. That is, I have to pass the one value. The value is to be 10. Okay, but if you call that function after that, we have to as a two function. Okay, one is to be one argument function, another is to be a two argument function. But here we have a function called default arguments. If you're declaring for any function with a default arguments means, so this value is to be considering for entire program wherever we want to access. But the thing is, if we access in this case, what is going to happen means the compiler is to be getting confusion whether I need to call this function, that is add integer a, or should I call add integer a comma b is equal to 5. So this kind of problems we will be facing while using for default arguments in function overloading concept. Okay. Next one is another problem we are going to facing for pass by reference. Okay. So look at here, we have a function called the main. So we have to pass add 10 means we have to only one method we are going to use it. But if we are using for with the help of ampersand symbol, that time you will get that time the compiler will getting confusions whether I have to call for ordinary function or I have to call for the reference function. So that is also we are going to facing the function overloading concept for the pass by reference. Okay. So if you see this, I discussed what are the function overloading concept is there, and what are the problems, what are the advantages, what are the causes will be there in function overloading. The same while we need to know what is function overriding. There is a difference, light difference between function overloading and function overriding. Let me see what is function overriding. So function overriding also have a same signature. It means that same kind of return type, same now function name will be there, same number of arguments. It means that total number of arguments will be same, and types of arguments will be same. Everything is to be same. So this is called, we will say it is the function overriding. It allows us to redefine multiple function name. If you see in previous slide, no, we have a function called add, that we will be differing for types of arguments and a number of arguments. But in this case, everything is to be same, but we will be using for many places. Okay, so this is called, we will say it is the function overriding. So if you use this concept called function overriding, definitely we should use the inheritance concept. Okay, so by default we should use the inheritance concept. How the function overloading is to be invoked, whether it is compile time or runtime, means obviously this function overriding will be worked out only at the runtime, not in a compile time process. Okay, where we have to use this means, so this is a simple example. We will say it is the, this is also used in the polymorphism concept only, but we will say it is the runtime polymorphism. But if you go for function overloading, we will say it is the compile time polymorphism. So the compiler, when you compile that coding itself, it will recognize whether that is compile time polymorphism or it will for the runtime polymorphism. That is whether it is function overloading or it is a function overriding. So this is a way the compiler is to be recognized whether this function is to be overriding or overloading. Let me see this example here. So we have, so I told you, if you use this function overloading concept, definitely we should use the inheritance concept. So what is the inheritance? Basically, I will tell you what is the inheritance. So the main thing, we, if you want to use the inheritance concept, okay, so this is the reusability code. We have to use the multiple times. That is, we will say it is the one base class will be there. You have to derive a new class, parent class, or we have with the help of parent class, you have to create the child class with extending your new attributes along with your existing one. Okay, so that is the main thing, we have to use this inheritance concept. Okay, so we need to incorporate that inheritance concept in function overriding place. Okay, now the first look at this example. We have a class called, so this inheritance means definitely we should use the classes and objects concept we will use. Okay, so first thing, I need to use a class. Okay, we have a class name called a, so within that I have to use a function called void display function. Okay, so when the function I want to display base function. So these content I want to display in the class A. Okay, look at here class B, how we are going to inherit your one class to another class. So this is the format we should follow. Okay, class, derived class name. So this is the derived class name called as B class, followed by colon. After that we should use some kind of access specifier. So we have different kind of access specifier will be there. So you have to use a public. Okay, followed by base class name. So this is the base class name, that is A. Okay, so within this B class we have to use the one function name. Look at this function name, look at this, the base class function name, both are same signature. Return type also void, and function name is also same function name, that is display. Look at this arguments, here also is a no arguments, here also base class also no arguments, same signature. I told you, know what is function overriding. If you use the same signature, same function name, And same number of arguments means we have to say it is the function called overriding. Okay, so look at here, there is a difference between your base class and derived class function. So in this derived class, I have displayed display derived class function. So that line I need to display. Okay, so this is the detailed description for A class function name and B class function name. Okay, how we are going to invoking this? Okay, we have to invoke in main function. So we used objects, classes and objects concept, no? So we need to create the objects. Okay, so how we are going to creating this objects? So there is a syntax, this is a syntax how we are going to creating the objects. Okay, so this is the derived class or class name, we need to mention that. So this is the name of the class. After name of the class, we should use the objects. Okay, followed by new is a data type operator. That is new operator, we are going to creating memory space in the memory, followed by a class name. Okay, after creating this object, with the help of this object, we need to invoke the function name. Okay, look at here, b1 dot. So how we are going to invoke this function means, with the help of dot operator, we are going to invoke. Okay, b1 dot display. So how the compiler is to be recognized for this self? Actually, we have same function in A class as well as in B class also. If you invoke this particular line, especially called as b1 dot display, means the compiler will recognize, it won't go for your A class. Okay, so inheritance means if you inherit from any one base class to new class means, obviously it will go for your derived class. So that time the compiler is to go for these places, that is derived class B class. It will go there, it will find out is there any display method. Yes, of course it is display method will be there in the derived class. So it will print whatever content we are going to use. Okay, so here we have a output called display derived function. Okay, so that is the thing, we are going to get output like this. So this is called, we will say it is the function overriding. So that is a difference, I told you know what is function overloading and function overriding. So overriding, we have is full signature. I told you once again, same return type, same function name, and arguments also should be same. But overloading, the argument will be differ in both. For example, two different kind of functions means that argument will be differ. So that is, we will say it is the function overloading. Okay, so this is called the difference between function overloading and function overriding. Okay, so function overloading, we have a same function name, but the types of arguments will be different, number of arguments will be different. But if you go for overriding, there is no difference, same function name and the same signature, and the types of arguments and the number of arguments should be in same. Okay, so that is the difference, main difference between function overloading and function overriding. Next, when it will invoke. Okay, function overloading should be invoked in compile time. Function overriding, it will be invoked at runtime only. Okay, so here where we are going to using inheritance concept, definitely in function overriding we will be using for a inheritance concept, but there is no need we are going to using for inheritance concept in function overloading. Okay, after that it have multiple definitions by changing the signature. Yes, of course, it will be differentiating based on the types of arguments and the number of arguments. So there is a lot of explanations on the concepts will be there in same function name but multiple signature. But here in function overriding, we have to use the base class function. So with the help of this base class function, we have to use for the derived class. Same function name we are going to using in derived class. So we have to redefine your same function in base class as well as your derived class. Okay, so I will overall summary I will explain. So what is function overloading and function overriding? Function overloading, it is mainly it helps to redefine your multiple functions. Same name I told you with a different number of signatures. Okay, types of arguments and a number of arguments. Okay, so the same function will be used in many places within the programming scope. The scope will be there in the overall, that is programming. After that, with the help of this function overloading, we can easily understand what kind of functions we are going to use, and it will be very flexible for the user, and we can able to easily readable also. So all the flexibility will be there in the function overloading. So then what is function overriding? We have to redefine your multiple functions with same name and your same signature. Okay, so return type also, function name and arguments, everything is to be same. Okay, so that is, I told you, this is called as your function overriding. Okay, so it will invoke, the scope will be there in many places, because we are going to using for base class also, and we are going to using for in derived also. This scope is to be in there in many places. Okay. Okay, so I concluded my function overloading concept. If you have any queries, any doubt in this, you have to give your queries with the help of this form. Okay, thank you. Thank you.